1 week left to go in the Major League Baseball regular season. That's what we have left, and we have absolute chaos coming. We've already gotten chaos. We have so much to talk about, and I don't even really know where to begin. But we're going to start with like a here's the deal, a breakdown of everything happening, the standings, who sits where, the week ahead, what it looks like for those teams, and then just talk about everything that really needs to be talked about, which is the Detroit Tigers. We're going to talk about them, the Cleveland Guardians in that division. We're going to talk about the Astros and the Mariners, the Mets and the Reds. It's Monday, so we'll have our last power rankings of the regular season in Major League Baseball, a FanDuel segment, because Flippin' Bats is presented by FanDuel. Bet baseball with us all season long on America's #1 sportsbook. We're also going to do an MVP discussion. Cal Raleigh, Aaron Judge. There's just so much happening right now. We're getting epic collapses. We're getting epic climb back into races. So that's why I feel like we're going to start with a here's the deal. And here's the deal. Here's the teams that have already won their division. The Milwaukee Brewers have clinched the NL Central. The Philadelphia Phillies have clinched the NL East. Now, that's it. Well, we're very close to getting a couple more, but those are the two that have clinched their division. Playoffs. The Dodgers have clinched a playoff spot. The Cubs have clinched a playoff spot. And the Toronto Blue Jays have also clinched a playoff spot. Now, here is where it gets interesting, and we're going to start in the American League. The American League Central, it is now a discussion. It was not a discussion until literally this moment. The Tigers have lost 6 games in a row, and they've lost 9 of their last 10. And what was once a certainty to win the division, which was, I said it even a couple weeks ago, the Central's out of reach. That's done. We can put that in the books. Well, we can't any longer. What was once a certainty is now not that. They're 1 game up. The Detroit Tigers are 1 game up on the Cleveland Guardians. Absolutely incredible what we are seeing. The Guardians are 9-1 in their last 10 games, and it's just been a historic collapse and a historic rise for each of these teams. Let's talk about the Tigers. The Detroit Tigers. This would be the biggest collapse in history. If the Detroit Tigers blow the NL Central lead and do not win the AL Central, it will be the biggest collapse in history. If they miss the playoffs after leading the Kansas City Royals and the Minnesota Twins at one point by 14 games, and the Cleveland Guardians at the time by 15 and a half games, on July 8th. They were 15 and a half games up on the Cleveland Guardians on July 8th. It would be the biggest advantage blown by a team that did not win its division or league in the modern American League, National League history. Remarkable. Oh man, the Tigers, near and dear to my heart. Near and dear to my heart. That's why I get so passionate. You have the best pitcher on the planet, and Tarik Skubal. And you didn't put this team in a position enough to win. You didn't give this team any leeway. And I was screaming to the abyss, it seemed, early in the season when I said, in the offseason, great day for the Detroit Tigers to sign Alex Bregman, right? They didn't, but they needed offense. No offense was acquired. I kept saying this team is really good, but it needs offense. And I would start hearing rumblings of this team is really good. They're putting up a bunch of runs. Look at the statistics. I don't care. I look at this lineup and I knew something was missing. Scott Harris did not give this team any leeway. If anybody struggled, if anybody scuffled, if a couple guys in the lineup went through a slump, this team did not have what it needed to push through that. I was screaming all year long that this team needed to add offense and needed help. Then comes the trade deadline. It was perfect timing. The trade deadline came at the perfect time for the Detroit Tigers. This is one of the best teams in the game of baseball. Best record in baseball for a while. Best record in the American League. They're still sitting pretty. Okay, then the All-Star game comes around and they scuffled. They have scuffled from the All-Star game to the trade deadline. Perfect timing, right? Okay, best team in baseball, still a really good record at this time when the trade deadline comes around, but we need help. It was the perfect time to add. I can't think of a better time to add and for the trade deadline to come along. Okay, we're a really good team. We are scuffling. It hit me right in the face that we need help. We need to add while we're sitting pretty. And he didn't. Scott Harris completely blew the trade deadline. How do you not add more? How do you not go get offense when the team, to me, desperately needed offense? How do you not pursue my brother? Rotation depth, he went the wrong direction. Offense, he didn't add any. The bullpen did get slightly better, but that is it. You wanted rotation depth. You wanted to add an older veteran pitcher. I can't wrap my head around for 1 second. I can't wrap my head around. If you went into the trade deadline knowing we want to add rotation depth and one of those pieces is going to be an older veteran that we can add to the rotation for some depth, I can't wrap my head around the fact how Scott Harris doesn't pursue my brother. A legend in Detroit, starting to pitch better at the time. He's been great for a couple of months at this point. I can't wrap my head around knowing you need rotation depth and that you wanted an older veteran to pair in the rotation, and you are the general manager of the Detroit Tigers and you don't go pursue Justin Verlander. I can't fathom it. And to me, that's secondary to not getting offense. Look, Tarek Skubal, best pitcher in baseball. You went out and got Jack Flaherty in the offseason. You need him to step up and be the pitcher that you believe he can be. Casey Mize has been really good. I didn't look at this team at the deadline, and it screamed to me rotation help. It screamed to me offense. It needs something. So to me, wanting rotation depth is a bonus. And he messed that up. It was secondary to the big need, which was offense. So, man, God, it's been so frustrating. And now here we are on the cusp of an epic collapse. Epic, historic, biggest collapse for a division leader in history of 15 and a half games. July 8th, 15 and a half games up. Now, here's the thing. It's all still in front of you. You do still lead the division. You are still a game up, and you play the teams you need to play. 6 games left, Red Sox and Guardians. The Red Sox and Guardians are the two teams right there on the cusp of a wild card spot. Who cares about the wild card at this point? Go in the division, you play the Guardians, beat them, and get in. It's all right in front of you. Go. Go now. But just I just get so frustrated with the Tigers because it just seems so obvious to me. All of it. I can't fathom not adding more. But Detroit Tigers control their own destiny still. It's all right in front of them, but an epic collapse has happened. Cleveland Guardians. The Cleveland Guardians do deserve a ton of credit. As someone on Twitter said, how do they do it, man? Their lineup is Jose Ramirez and a bunch of raccoons in a trench coat. Now, does that make sense? No, but I get it. I do kind of get it. Now, look, Stephen Kwan and Kyle Manzardo aren't exactly raccoons in a trench coat, whatever that means, but this team continues to be Jose Ramirez, an MVP caliber player, and then they pitch. It is truly incredible. They rattled off a 10-game win streak. 10-game win streak to close out this epic collapse in a division. They did lose on Sunday, but to close this gap, 10-game win streak. They erased a 15-and-a-half game deficit. If they were to do that, if they come back and win the division, they would be in their own history. It would be the biggest comeback for a postseason berth in 125 years of modern AL-NL play. 125 years. They just went on a 16-game stretch where they had a team ERA of 1.22 and a whip of 0.88. Just absolutely absurd stretch. Pitching, and Jose Ramirez. It's incredible. So, look, I love the tweet. I don't quite understand it, and that's the beauty of it. But no, Kyle Manzardo and Stephen Kwan aren't necessarily raccoons and trench coaches, but I get what the guy is saying. You pitch, and you pitch well enough, and you can win every single ball game, and that's what they've been doing. And you've been getting it at the same time of an epic Detroit Tigers collapse. So the Guardians have the Tigers and the Jays left. Now, the Jays are a little banged up, and they're going to start putting together their playoff rotation, but the Jays are a good team. And then there's the Tigers. But the Guardians deserve a lot of credit here, and I did want to talk about them as well. You can't have an all-time historic comeback without most likely having an all-time historic collapse. And we're getting these both at the exact same time, and we are right on the cusp of absolute history. Good on the Guardians, though, for making this happen. Let's talk about the AL West now. The Mariners went into Houston and swept the Houston Astros. The Mariners now lead the AL West by 4 games after sweeping the Astros in Houston. So that's the AL West situation. The AL wildcard situation. You have the Yankees, 2 games back in the AL East, and they're at the top of the wild card there. You have the Red Sox are second there, but only 1 game up on the next spot. And then there's the Guardians and the Astros are tied, but Cleveland has the tiebreaker. Red Sox hold the tiebreaker over Houston. So this is where it gets a little complicated. Guardians and the Astros, the Guardians who are 1 game back in the division, are now tied with the Houston Astros in the final wild card spot, and they hold the tiebreaker. If the season were to end right now, as I speak, on Monday, the Astros are out of the playoffs and the Guardians are in. The Red Sox, who are just a game up on both of them, do hold the tiebreaker over Houston. So the AL situation is certainly complicated. Not just the AL Central, but the divisions. The AL West is seemingly in hand of the Mariners, but the wild card gets really tricky. Let's talk about that series. Astros-Mariners. The Houston Astros had a 4-game lead in the American League West on September 3rd. It's September 22nd. That's less than 20 days ago. They had a 4-game lead. They're now 4 games. They're now 3 games back. They've gone 7-9 since then, while the Mariners have gone 14-2. 7-9, while the Mariners have gone 14-2. Now, to me, for the Houston Astros, this season was just a nightmare for the Houston Astros injury-wise. And it's been this way for a few years. So, look, rotation has just been absolutely obliterated and no healthy arms and just nothing has gone right, and injury after injury after injury. And one thing we need to point to here before I really dive in on the Astros is this has been a generational run for the Houston Astros. And it's certainly not over. They have the easiest schedule remaining of all these AL teams. They have the Angels and they have the A's. 9 straight seasons in the playoffs. A generational run. I can acknowledge that. But this year, again, as well as last year, injury after injury after injury, and starter down, and AAA starter up, and AAA starter up. And at a certain point, it has to stop being an excuse, and it has to be more treated like a problem. It's a problem. The medical staff can't seem to keep players on the field. There's an organizational issue where pitchers are just continually getting hurt. Arm issue after arm issue after arm issue. Now, it's not all their fault. It's a combo of, sure, injury-prone players, and there's clearly a problem within the organization when it comes to overall health. So it's really not an excuse for me anymore. This has been a couple of years in a row of just saying like, well, yeah, all of our starters went down. Okay, that's part of it. It's all part of it. Yeah, starters went down. Injuries happen to everybody, sure. But injury after injury after injury in the rotation, year after year after year, starts becoming a problem. An issue within the organization. To me, when I look at this Astros team, I certainly see enough talent to win, but I see issues elsewhere. Timely hitting, certainly an issue. Injuries, certainly an issue. Not an excuse anymore. It's been a problem. It's a track record at this point. It is a track record of injuries that derail a season. So who's that on? Who is it to fix it? How do you fix it? Well, it's well above what my pay grade, but I know it's an issue that I think needs to be addressed. So, look, you're still okay. If the season ended today, you're done. But you have an easy schedule remaining. Go out and go 6-0, 5-1, and I think you put yourself in a good position to get into the playoffs. But you got to figure it out, and you got to turn it around. The Astros have just been really, really bad. I do want to talk about the Seattle Mariners. Because to me, the American League West has been more about the Mariners' success than it has been about the demise of the Houston Astros. The Seattle Mariners have time and time again faltered in the biggest moments in franchise history. Heading into Houston with the division on the line against the team that has won the division for years and years and years and owned the division was perhaps the biggest regular season series in franchise history. And to me, it feels like a turning point in franchise history that they went in there and beat the brakes off the Houston Astros. Swept them, swept the series, and firmly put into their grasp the AL West. Potentially the first American League West title for the Seattle Mariners since 2001. This Seattle Mariners team is what it looks like when your GM goes for it at the trade deadline. The Mariners earned the American League West. They deserve the American League West. For years, it feels like I've just been losing my mind over the fact of how do you not go get more offense? How do you not add with this rotation and this team and this back into the bullpen? It's pretty clear and obvious that with this pitching and a young phenom in Julio Rodriguez that you just need to add more offense around him. And they did. They did it. They did what they've needed to do for years. And that's go get offense. And we're seeing right in front of us them reap the benefits of that. They deserve this division. This comeback has been phenomenal. They did what they needed to do at the trade deadline, even when it wasn't like, okay, we're clearly a playoff team. We're clearly winning the AL West. Let's add the offense that we know we're going to need. No, it wasn't that. It wasn't clear and obvious what they were. But they finally looked in the mirror and said, we know what we need to do. We're going to go get it. They went and added Josh Naylor and Eugenio Suarez and added some thump that was necessary for that lineup, and now you're seeing what it looks like when a GM really, truly goes for it. They went for it. They were winners at the trade deadline, and now they're going to be winners of the American League West. Man, they have been so good. They deserve a ton of credit for everything. Of course, the play on the field, what they did at the trade deadline, going into Houston, biggest regular season series in franchise history maybe, and they went in there and swept that series. That means more than just winning those 3 games to me. This is a franchise shifting series that just happened. Not just because it was the Astros, but because it was on the road against the team that has owned the division for the last decade, against the team that is constantly trolling you, whether it be on social media, whether it be the fan base. It was just so much back and forth between the two, and they could just never get over that hump. And then this year, it was the perfect storm, the perfect hump, the perfect time to get over it. When you were been trailing all year in the division and you finally catch up, and then it's a huge, massive series on the road against that team, and you go in there and you beat the brakes off of them. To me, it feels like a franchise shifting last few months for the Seattle Mariners, starting with them finally making the moves that needed to be made at the trade deadline, and you're immediately this year seeing them reap the benefits of all of that. And now I truly believe we're a few days away from them winning their first American League West title since 2001. And they've absolutely deserved this and earned every bit of it. So do not let a single Astros fan look at you and say, well, we had all of these injuries and it's really not fair. Screw that. Injury after injury after injury, year after year for the Houston Astros eventually has to stop being an excuse, and it's a problem that they have to figure out. This Seattle Mariners team figured out what they needed to do this year. They went and got it done, and they earned the American League West, and they absolutely deserve every bit of this division title and success that I believe they can have in the postseason. So good for the Seattle Mariners. Yeah, the American League is very tricky currently. Not a lot of divisions are wrapped up, and then the wild card situation between the Red Sox, the Astros, the Guardians, and I guess the Mariners are part of it in the division, but the Mariners are going to make the playoffs, and unless they really collapse, they're going to win the American League West as well. So Guardians, Red Sox, and Astros are the three teams for those wild card spots, and the Tigers as well. Speaking of the Mariners, let's have an MVP discussion. Cal Raleigh versus Aaron Judge. Man, this has become a really fun conversation to me, and it started back in May where I said I believe Cal Raleigh is the MVP. So let's talk about it. I do believe Cal Raleigh is still the MVP. If your AL MVP argument for 1 second is putting up this graphic, this side-by-side of Aaron Judge and Cal Raleigh statistics and saying, look, and then it ends with WAR, and then you say, okay, it even includes defense. WAR includes defense. You're missing the entire point. Cal Raleigh is a catcher. There is not a single statistic out there, not a single statistic that, to me, directly shows how valuable a catcher is. Everything that goes on behind the scenes. Leading a pitching staff, the toll that it takes on your body, the behind the scenes of being in pitchers' meetings instead of hitters' meetings. When everyone's preparing for the games, you're preparing with the pitchers, and then you have to figure out how to go warm up and prepare offensively. So much behind the scenes. There's not a single stat. So if you're just looking at the side-by-side of Aaron Judge's offensive numbers and Cal Raleigh's offensive numbers and saying, see, look, you're missing the entire point. You're missing the entire argument. This isn't an offensive award. If it were an offensive award, it's Aaron Judge's. But it's not. Cal Raleigh is doing things that have never been done before. If you're the first player to ever do something in MLB history, that holds a lot of weight. And Cal Raleigh, this year, most single-season home runs by a catcher in MLB history. Most home runs in a single season by a switch hitter in single season history, passing Mickey Mantle, a record since 1961. And as of late, the Seattle Mariners' all-time single season home run record. Cal Raleigh has passed Ken Griffey Jr. Again, if you're the first to ever do something, that holds a lot of weight. This argument and conversation, this AL MVP discussion to me is not an argument against Aaron Judge. It's an argument for Cal Raleigh. And I get frustrated when I see the side-by-side stats. Of course, I can look at statistics. I can see that Aaron Judge is leading in these categories and Cal Raleigh's only leading in this category and this category. But it's completely missing the entire point. This is not an offensive award. And then another big one is for Yankees fans pointing at batting average. Batting average is all of a sudden a go-to statistic for some people that have been crying that it's an outdated statistic for many years. But now when it comes to this AL MVP conversation, all of a sudden it's an outdated or it's a very relevant argument. Look, I like batting average more than most, I would say. I do still think there's a place for it in the game, but you can't for years and years say batting average is ridiculous. It doesn't show the full story. And then when it comes to the AL MVP conversation, you're pointing straight at batting average. It doesn't work that way. But again, for me, Cal Raleigh is the American League MVP, and it's because of everything that he's doing offensively, and it's because of that he's doing it as a catcher. And if you're just pointing at offensive numbers, you're missing the entire point. And there is not, in my opinion, a single metric, a single number that can put a value on what a catcher means to a team, on what he means to a pitching staff, on calling every pitch, on calling defensive plays, on leading a defense, leading a pitching staff, the toll it takes on your body, the behind the scenes, all while trying to be a productive hitter. If you're the first to ever do something in Major League Baseball history, I think that holds a lot of weight, And I think Cal Raleigh is the 2025 AL MVP. And again, it's going to make a lot of Yankees fans mad, and people are going to come at me and all of this. This is not an argument against Aaron Judge. It's an argument for Cal Raleigh, period. Whew. The American League is wild. So many good races, including the AL MVP race, and Cal Raleigh's at 58 homers. 58 homers. Insane. All right, let's go talk about the National League. Here's the deal in the National League. You have the division winners, which is just the Philadelphia Phillies and the Milwaukee Brewers. The NL West is still up for grabs. Philadelphia Phillies, Milwaukee Brewers are your division winners there. Now let's talk the wild card race. The New York Mets. The Mets have completely crumbled. Completely crumbled. We talked about it a week or so ago. Completely crumbled. The Cincinnati Reds, 4-game sweep of the Chicago Cubs and are currently in a playoff spot. The Reds are currently in a playoff spot. The Padres are right above them in that number 2 spot. They're almost in. The Chicago Cubs are in. So the top wildcard team, Chicago Cubs, they are in. Padres right below. They are almost in. And then you have the Reds and the Mets, who are tied, and the Reds have the tiebreaker. The Cincinnati Reds have the tiebreaker over the New York Mets. The Diamondbacks, who are behind the Mets and Reds, both of them, they're a game back. The Diamondbacks have the tiebreaker over the Mets. The Reds have the tiebreaker over all of them. The Giants are 3 games back. They're not mathematically out of it, but they're out of it. So this is a 3-team race. Reds, Mets, Diamondbacks. The Reds have the advantage right now, holding the tiebreaker over all of them, and just a 4-game sweep over the Chicago Cubs to get where they are. Let's start by talking about the New York Mets. The New York Mets are no longer in control of their own destiny. For the first time since April 5th, the New York Mets are not in a playoff spot. The Mets are Metsing harder than I've ever seen the Mets met before, and that's saying something. Season on the line over the weekend, past few days. And you get to play a Washington Nationals team that has 92 losses. You lose 2 of 3 games to a 92-loss Washington National team. You've gone 35 and 53 in your last 88 games. They are telling us what they are. This isn't just a bad stretch. This is a sample size of over half of a season. And now in a franchise known for dramatic collapses, we're watching perhaps the worst collapse ever happen right in front of our eyes. That it has just been absolutely brutal for the New York Mets, and they have crumbled and crumbled and crumbled, and they've just been trying to hold on, but it hasn't been enough, and now they've officially been, I can't say passed, they are tied with the Cincinnati Reds, but they do not hold the tiebreaker, and if the season ended today, they'd be out of the playoffs. Have held a playoff spot since April 5th, and now they've gone 35 and 53 in their last 88 games and crumbled and fallen all the way out of a playoff spot. That's the New York Mets. They're still right there. They are in this, but they are crumbling, and this would be an epic, epic collapse. The Cincinnati Reds, winners of 5 games in a row, 4-game sweep of the Chicago Cubs. They control their own destiny now. The Cincinnati Reds, I love this team. I picked them to win the NL Central, and that is not going to happen, but man, they might be a playoff team. They pitch. They run. Their offensive additions have been a fun spark to this team, and they have an absolute legend on the top step of the dugout in Tito Francona. That's why this team is good. They're so much fun to watch. You have 3 games at home against the Pittsburgh Pirates and then 3 on the road against the Milwaukee Brewers. But the Brewers will be readying for October and getting their playoff rotation set and in place and maybe resting some guys. So it won't be the full strength, full go Milwaukee Brewers team that you have to play. 3 against the Pirates at home. You got to sweep that. And then you can beat the Milwaukee Brewers on the road. And the Cincinnati Reds might just be a playoff team. So they are tied with the Mets, and they do own the tiebreaker. The Arizona Diamondbacks are 1 game back of each of those teams. But again, the Reds hold the tiebreaker with them. The Diamondbacks hold the tiebreaker over the New York Mets. It is absolute chaos right now around Major League Baseball. A lot of playoff spots still up for grabs. We have an epic collapse going in each league. The Detroit Tigers and the New York Mets with an epic collapse. You have the Cleveland Guardians creeping their way back into this, which is insane to be talking about at this point. And it all comes down to these last 6 or 7 games. Most teams, there's only a few games on Monday. Most teams have 6 games left, and it is going to decide everything. We only know for sure 5 playoff teams right now: Brewers, Phillies, Dodgers, Cubs, Blue Jays. Everything else is still up for grabs. Hopefully I was able to do a good enough job explaining because it's chaos what we got. There's a lot of chaos within the standings, and then chaos with the historical meaning behind all of it and all these teams collapsing and everything that's happening. Let's talk power rankings. This is the final MLB power rankings of the regular season right here. And we're going to start with number 10, the Detroit Tigers, down 3 spots. An epic all-time collapse, potentially right in front of us. They still hold their own destiny. They can still win this, but they are just falling and falling and falling. At one point for a while this year, they were the number 1 team, and now they are barely in the top 10. And number 9, the Chicago Cubs, also down 1 spot. The Cubs are just kind of coasting right now. They are not going to win the division. They are in the playoffs. They're just kind of coasting. They got swept by the Reds on the road. I bumped them down 1. And number 8, down 2 spots, the San Diego Padres. Also not playing great. At number 7 and new to the MLB Power Rankings, the Cleveland Guardians. Winners of 10 in a row at one point. They've won 9 of their last 10. They've climbed all the way back into this division. They've climbed all the way back in the wild card race. We are seeing potentially a historic rise to a playoff spot. When they were once 15 and a half games back, they are now right there on the cusp of it, and we could be seeing something historic here. They're all the way up, new here to number 7. At number 6, up 3 spots, the Seattle Mariners. I talked all about them. This is huge. Huge for the franchise, huge for the organization, sweeping the Astros on the road to gain serious control of the division. First division title since 2001 is maybe just a couple days away. Mariners up to number 6. My top 5 is actually going to be staying the same this week. I have the Dodgers staying put at 5. Over the weekend, we did see Clayton Kershaw announce his retirement at the end of this year. Got his final home start on Friday, which was really emotional and cool to see. I grew up watching Clayton Kershaw. I grew up watching my brother and Clayton Kershaw in different leagues kind of be like the cream of the crop, and these 2 all-time great pitchers on each side of the league, and kind of doing it in a very similar way at the same time. And it's been really special to watch, and it was really emotional to see Clayton Kershaw come out of that game Friday night. Dodgers staying put here at number 5. Yankees staying put at number 4. Yankees had a good week. Beat the Twins, beat the Orioles, 2 not great teams, but the Yankees are looking pretty good right now. Blue Jays, right on the cusp of winning the AL East, but we'll see if they can hold off the Yankees. Blue Jays staying put here at number 3. At number 2, also staying put, the Milwaukee Brewers. They have the best record in baseball. Most people have them still at number 1 in the power rankings. I changed that last week. I believe the Phillies are a better team than the Brewers, but the Brewers do have the better record. I have them at number 2. And again, at the top spot in my power rankings to finish the regular season is the Philadelphia Phillies here on top. So that's Tigers at 10, Cubs, Padres, Guardians, Mariners, and top 5, Dodgers, Yankees, Blue Jays, Brewers, and Phillies. Let's talk Dinger Tuesday real quick. FanDuel on Tuesdays does Dinger Tuesday, where you can pick a player to get a 50% profit boost if they hit a home run. And I got 3 picks for you, 3 good names that I feel really good about. Matt Chapman, Mookie Betts, and Alejandro Kirk are my 3 picks for Dinger Tuesday on FanDuel Sportsbook. If you like any of those, go on FanDuel Sportsbook, check it out. If you don't like any of those, go on FanDuel Sportsbook and pick somebody that you do like, because you get a 50% profit boost if they hit a homer on Dinger Tuesday. Really fun show, really big week ahead. John Smoltz will be coming up in a couple days. We're going to do his Smoltz formula which he loves to talk about, and he loves to put it together, and he's really excited about this, and I'm really excited for you all to hear it and see it, because he really does kind of have it down to a science, and he loves talking pitching, and he's putting together his Smoltz formula, and we're going to talk American League Cy Young Award when it comes to Tarek Skubal and Garrett Crochet, and he did make a point last week to mention he does want to throw Freddie Peralta in the mix for NL Cy Young Award, so we're going to talk Paul Skeens and Freddie Peralta there as well, just to kind of see. I think Paul Skeens is the Cy Young Award winner, but he does want to at least put the two together because Freddie Peralta has been having an incredible year. What a fun show. What a fun week we have left in Major League Baseball. It is wild. It is crazy. It is crunch time. It is my favorite time of year. Just a few days left, and what I've always said all year is still holding true. 2025 is the year of flipping bats, my friends. Things have been so much fun and so awesome. And if you're listening right now or watching, please click that subscribe or follow button wherever. Check us out on our YouTube channel, Flippin' Bats Pod, as well. It does really help and really mean a lot when you subscribe there. I love hopping in the comments and talking to you guys and kind of continuing the conversation there. So check us out on our YouTube channel, Flippin' Bats Pod. You can watch the whole episode. We'll talk in the comments after. Subscribe, like the video, comment. Make sure you follow wherever you listen to your podcast and on all social media at Flippin' Bats Pod everywhere. We put out some fun clips from the show and a bunch of different things, honestly. So this is the home stretch now, my friends. I mean, there's a million different talking points, and I'm going to try my best to keep up with them, but we're ramping up. John Smoltz will be on in a couple of days, and then it'll be playoff time. I'll do my full playoff preview and my bracket breakdown and all of that, and then we'll be going more episodes during the playoffs. This is just absolute chaos we're getting right now, and I love it, and I hope you all love it as well. I love this community. I love Flippin' Bats so much. You all mean the world to me. Thank you for making baseball even more fun for me and allowing me to talk it every single week and just pass on my love of baseball with people that love it as much as I do. So I appreciate every single one of you listening and watching right now. Let's have ourselves a great final push and a great playoffs. And until John Smoltz in a couple days, remember everyone, find your bat and flip it. Peace. Flippin' Bats is presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Must be 21 and older and present in select states. For Kansas, an affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 and older and present in D.C. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. Or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts. Or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.